What is good? Thank you for tuning in for today's episode of the Rice Crypto Show. And on today's show, I have a very interesting guest. His name is Bryan Sharpe, and some of you might know him as Hotep Jesus. You might have seen Hotep on Joe Rogan's show, Fox News, or even Vice. Now, before we get into it, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, smash that like button, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Check out my Patreon channel where you can support me directly and I post up exclusive content. Also, follow me on LBRY where I post up extra videos. And we're just going to go ahead and get right into today's video. All right, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, joining me on today's show is Bryan Sharpe, who is also known as Hotep Jesus. Hotep, man, thank you for coming on the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome considering everything that's been going on so far this year, but it's definitely some interesting times. But today has been a really good day so far. So far, a good start to the day. And
Nice.
and here we are, man, getting a chance to talk and get to know you a little bit. I know you've been on the Joe Rogan show. You've appeared on Fox News. You're an author. You're a startup advisor, an angel investor. You have a YouTube channel, a podcast, multiple shows. I mean, you're all over the place, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very impressed by who you are. I was introduced to the idea of Hotep Jesus by a mutual friend, Crypto Blood, CB.
Okay.
So shout out to CB, man, for turning me on to like what you're doing.
Nice.
So with everything I said, man, for people who are unfamiliar with you, who is Hotep Jesus in your words?
Recently, Brett Weinstein had a podcast with his brother, Eric, and he listed me as one of the top Black intellectuals in the world, which I thought was quite flattering. I wouldn't consider myself on that list. I think there's a lot of people in this world that are way more brilliant than I am, who understand math and science to a level I may never even reach, especially on the African continent and the South American continent. I think I'm just the fact that I have a marketing background makes it so that I'm more prominent and in your face. So you see me, you know about me, but I'm sure there's other people that are way more intellectual than I am. I would consider myself an intellectual. I study hard, I study a lot, and I pride myself in that. But I'm somebody with a big sales background. I was part of the mortgage industry before the 2008 housing crisis. And so, I have an extensive sales history or experience from being in that world. And then I have this marketing experience that dates back to like 1996. And then my dad's a tech geek. He was an electrician, inspector, and he always had the state of the art, nice level of equipment. Like right now, audio. I don't know if you ever heard of Martin Logan. You ever heard of Martin Logan speakers?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so he's got like a pair of those glass Martin Logan speakers where the highs and mids come out like super beautiful out of the glass, right?
High-end speakers.
Yeah, high-end speakers. Yeah, so he's always been a guy that purchased high-end technology. So I've always been around tech, always been around computers. When the CD burners first came out, nobody even used those things anymore, right?
Right.
But, when the CD burner first came out, we had one. When GPS first came out, he had one custom installed in his car. So, I've been around computers, tech. I was building computers, in 95, 96, I was there when Windows 95 came out, Windows 3.1, MS-DOS. I was playing with all that stuff. Commodore 64. I was playing with all of that stuff. So it's just that now in my life, I've gotten to a place where I no longer have to work for somebody else. I get to work for myself and work on my own brand and my own businesses. So that's what I do. Now I'm a tech co-founder. Involved in 3 projects at the moment, potentially a few more soon.
Very cool.
Wazo AI. We do camera vision, coinbitsapp.com, purchasing Bitcoin, and Jiffitize. allows you to save GIFs and videos from Twitter. So I just try to stay busy. I feel like if I don't stay busy, then I don't know, I go crazy.
Well, that's what I was telling you before we started, man. You seem like a very busy guy. You're all over the place. And I mean, I'm sure you got a team of people that you work with, but and I was going to get into details about some of the specifics things about some of the startups that you mentioned. But real quick, man, when you said that you were listed as like an influential person, African-American person in the community, I really wouldn't diminish what you do at all. There might be some people who might have a little bit more of an intellectual intelligence that you may not have, which, I mean, obviously you're an incredibly smart guy, but some of those people may not be able to connect with people. So you might be intellectual and smart all you want, but if you can't connect with people, you can't be influential, you see? So, I mean, there's a special gift of being able to connect with people. And, you know, I mean, you connect with all different kinds of people. So, I mean, you're all over the place. It's, you know, I can obviously tell you're not trying to stay within the African-American community, but you're trying to represent, you know, who you are to the fullest. And I truly respect that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. You know, I understand people. I understand how to connect with people. And I think I'm one of the best people in the world that connects with people. I would agree with that. And if you couple that in with intellectualism, then yeah, you know, I'm probably up there, top guys. You know, the thing is, you know, the minute you say you're on top, you know, you lose that hunger, right?
Well, I love your humbleness too, but I just I didn't want you to like diminish yourself. I mean, stay humble. Okay. Kendrick Lamar said it best, man. Stay humble. Just keep staying humble. How and when did you get involved in cryptocurrency?
Well, I knew about Bitcoin early on. And
was your dad into stuff like that?
No, he actually wasn't into Bitcoin.
Okay.
No,
I'm just curious since he was into technology.
Yeah, no, I knew about Bitcoin. I want to say going back to like 2013. I want to say as early as, and I was very ignorant. You know, first I tried to get into mining, and I just didn't take the time to understand it. I didn't take the time to understand Bitcoin. And then I brushed it off and saying like, oh, the bankers are going to kill this, so it's no point, right? And then there was a boom, 2017, I want to say.
Yeah.
So 2017, I got in, I want to say like spring sometime. I was like, you know, I was at this point.
When I bought in was early 2017, about March, April.
Yeah. So it started getting like a lot of buzz. The price started going up. And at this point, I had already acquired a large deal of investing knowledge, and I had a lot of investing success in the stock market. So I was like, oh, I'll play in this. It's just a new market to me. So I started to play in it, and I did really well. And then I was speaking to a friend, and, you know, they were investing in ICOs. I was like, it's not a little too risky. I don't want to touch it. You know, I just want to stick to my fundamentals of buy and hold and then sell at the top. So then I remember it was around Thanksgiving, and I was around some family, and one of my friends was there. And he was like, yo, did you hear about this Bitcoin thing? And I'm like, yeah, I know about Bitcoin. And he was like, yeah, everybody's talking about it at the barbershop. And I was like, really?
At the barbershop? That's
a
lot of old cats usually.
Yeah. So I was like, ugh, this ain't good. So as soon as I got that news, I started looking at the charts and making my assessments. And I'm like, well, how much of this can I sell? Because I'm going to keep my principal in there, but how much of this can sell? So I sold everything, including the principal. I mean, except for the principal. So I kept the principal in there. And I announced it on Twitter. I'm like, guys, I just sold my Bitcoin. And they're like, yo, you're so stupid. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, you might be right, but I done made a nice bag already, right? Like I'm come from the investing world where it's like, if you're above 25% gains, you know,
it's unheard of. Yeah.
Yeah. It's unheard of. Right. So I don't know. I was at like 600% or something like that. I can't remember, but I'm like, yo, I won already. Like, if you guys want to go to 1,000, fine. So the price is going up still. And I'm like, damn, I shouldn't have sold. Price is going up. December, price is going up. Then January hit and everything came tumbling down. And I was like, I told you.
That's what's up, man. Yeah. Well, it's cool because, I mean, you've been some of your startups, which we'll kind of get into in a moment, involve a little bit with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I'm going to do a quick screen share here, and I'll
Okay.
do it like throughout some of what we're talking about. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your book. Because you say here, this is what landed you on the Joe Rogan experience. And Joe Rogan is somebody who I look up to. I'm getting ready to start an audio podcast myself, and I'm kind of modeling it after the Joe Rogan experience and what Bryan does over at London Real. I really like London Real, kind of the long form conversations. And I really dig Joe Rogan, and it's really cool that you had a chance to go on his podcast. I'm sure everybody, hypes you up about it. I don't want to talk too much about Joe Rogan, but I'd like to learn a little bit about your book, Dominate Twitter, because you obviously are a social engineer. It's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Shout out to Riley, my co-founder over at Wazo. He was the one that said, you're a social engineer. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's exactly what I am.
It's a good term.
Yeah. So this was a brain dump. Dominate Twitter was a brain dump after, working with 50 Cent as regional marketing director and working with a bunch of corporations, working with probably over 20 mobile apps, and being in mortgage business and the restaurant business and my own businesses, and being a touring artist for about 6 years or whatever it was, and having huge success as an artist, having my own blog, which was doing, millions of hits a month. I was able to just like hop in a lane and then rise, and hop in a new lane and then rise. Right. But I had all these rules in my head about marketing. And what happens is, when you have stuff swirling around in your head, you got to get them on paper so they stop swirling around and distracting you. So it started off as a brain dump. And, as I'm doing this brain dump, I'm like, this is going to be like a really good book. So I catered it towards Dominate Twitter, but I could rewrite the same exact document, change a few things, and turn it into a general marketing book, because the book really doesn't teach you how. It teaches you tips and tricks on Twitter. It's catered for Twitter. It teaches you marketing for Twitter. But if you read it, like I was talking to Primal Fire yesterday, and he was like, bro, like you can use these things on any platform or throughout life or in the corporate world. And then I had another gentleman who's, I think out of Silicon Valley, co-founder, investor. And he said, I wish I had this book when I was 20 years old, right? So it kind of goes to show you, like, it's bigger than Twitter. The book is bigger than Twitter. I just wanted to cater it towards Twitter, since that's the platform I'm great on, and show people how I use these principles on Twitter. But it's very much a how-to in marketing, so powerful that, one girl picked it up, and the next day she just started to launch a marketing agency, and she's doing quite well. But I take everything I've learned from marketing, and distill it down to a 5th grade level so everybody can understand it. And it's like, it's not, a lot of people teach marketing based upon theory. I'm teaching marketing based upon like real life experience. Like I've gained a lot of success from doing these things, so I just wanted to give people the real for real on marketing. A lot of people, don't understand what marketing is, or when people teach it, it's like a lot of fluff and a lot of like corporate
It can be very
jargon.
challenging.
Yeah, it could be challenging. I'm like, and I just take it and I'm like, no, this is what marketing and branding really is. So you can understand it. And once people get that, it's like, I almost like, I'm sure my cohorts are probably like, why'd you give these people this information? Like, this is supposed to be hidden, right? And that's why I put on the copy in the places like dark secrets, because the stuff I'm revealing are what marketers won't tell you about marketing.
I love it, man. And I'll definitely include links down below for everything that we're talking about. So if people want to check them out, whether it's your books or your YouTube channel or your Twitter account. Any other books coming out in the future? Do you plan on writing anything else, or kind of making a generic version?
This is out.
Okay.
The Unbreakable Rules of Masculinity. It's out on Amazon, and digital version is on ricecrypto.crypto. Great body of work. I just had somebody email me yesterday and say, yo, dude, you've taken everything that's that he's been thinking, and was able to put it down on paper. And he's like, I see where I've been going wrong with women. Right. So this has been a great document for a lot of people. Another brain dump. You know,
I have to check that out.
Yeah, I just, I understand women and understand dating, so on and so forth. And I kind of wanted to get my ideas down on paper and then share them with people. So that's what this book is. And then I have one coming. I'm doing a lot of research now on America and some things I think people need to know about America and how we can make America better as a people, without government interference.
I love it, dude. I'm big on promoting what true anarchy actually is and trying to educate people about that and about voluntarism, and especially with what's going on in the mainstream media and trying to misuse the word. Even Donald Trump is misusing the word anarchy. And, but I understand it, as a social norm, people can accept a false definition as becoming a normal definition for a word. I mean, and I use symbolism as a good example. I use the swastika as a great example for all this, because from my research, that I don't even know if it was originally called that, but it comes from what I know from Buddhism, and it has nothing to do with anything related to Nazis or Hitler. But if you show somebody that symbol, that's all they're going to relate it to. So I just try to show that other side of the spectrum of what anarchy is. And we definitely could use a lot less government interference. But at the same time, that means that people need to and step up and take responsibility, which a lot of people aren't really ready to take responsibility for themselves either. It's kind of this double-edged sword when it comes to that. And kind of a cool segue, you mentioned in your book about, what was the masculinity book called again?
The Unbreakable Rules of Masculinity.
Okay. And you mentioned being familiar with women and understanding dating and things like that. Kind of a good segue to go into talking about your YouTube channel. Because you do all kinds of different content, but a good friend of mine, or I wouldn't say a good friend of mine, but a mutual friend, Wendy.
Yeah.
Wendy O, you're doing a show with her. And I encourage people, if you're not subscribed to Hotep's channel, make sure you check it out. Again, I'll have links down below. 32.5 thousand subscribers. But love and marriage with Wendy O. I think it's a really cool idea. Plus, you have your own show, Hotep's Been Told You.
Yeah. That's the premiere podcast show is Hotep's Been Told You with Uncle Hotep. That's rising in success. Then I do interviews every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Time. And I've had some pretty influential people on there: Sonny Johnson, Larry Johnson, Scott Adams. I'll have Young Farrah on next week. This week. So yeah, it's great. And then, I wanted to do something on relationships, right? Like I have the relationship book, and so I wanted to do something that talked about male-female dynamics, right? And the nuances of it all. And Wendy's been like, I couldn't ask for a better co-host. She wasn't what I pictured. Like because what I said was, in my head, I had like attractive Black woman as who would be my co-host. But I didn't have anybody particular in mind. So I just put it out there like, who wants to do a show with me? And she responded. She was like actually the first person responded. And, I just couldn't ask for a better host. She comes up with the best topics. She takes a lot of workload off of me.
She's smart.
Yeah, she's super intelligent.
She has a very interesting upbringing, which she speaks about very publicly. She kind of grew up same way I did, kind of poor, having to see the realities of life very quickly at a young age. So she's definitely an inspirational woman, and she's very, very much doing her education. She's a mother. She's a content creator. She does trading. She's all over the place. It's a good fit for you, because I can see how you guys both stay busy. And I can only imagine how you guys make time to actually do the show.
Yeah. And she's on the West Coast too, so we have to do the show a little bit later for me. It's like 9:30 my time, 6:30 her time. So she has to rush home to do the show, and I have to stay up late to do the show, right?
Yeah, late stuff can be a little bit different because you kind of already gone through the day and you're in a
Yeah.
different mindset almost. Sometimes I don't want to talk as much, and
Yeah, yeah. And then the show runs like past 11 o'clock at night. And 11 o'clock at night is usually time when I'm in bed, winding down, catching up on Twitter, and then maybe just some chess puzzles or some reading, or you know what I mean? And then I take it down. So I don't get my me time. So then Tuesday nights I'm always going to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning because there's just things I have to do to my brain before I can go to sleep.
no, I feel you. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I've been, if you don't take melatonin or anything like that, it helps me a lot. It just kind of helps induce that sleep because I have a very busy mind myself.
Yeah, yeah. I got a busy mind too, man. It's a
Uncle
task to turn it
Hotep, I
off.
love that, man. Is that's not you now, is it?
No, I'm Hotep Jesus. He's Uncle Hotep. That's my page that you got up there.
Yeah.
That's Uncle Hotep on the left. You see in the banner. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's somebody who started out as a supporter on my previous brand, Ali Shakur, and that was great. He supported my YouTube channel. He bought some of my first merch. And this was after my rebrand, after being an artist, and then the whole Trump thing happened, right? And Trump became president, and he was a black conservative, and I knew nothing about black conservatives. I knew nothing about Democrats and Republicans. So he was kind of like my lighthouse to that arena. And then I dove in head first because I just wanted to learn. And I learned a lot. And now I'm like backing away.
What's up, though?
Yeah, but I don't regret a single moment. I'm still like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But I thought I wanted to be in politics, but then after I saw how limiting it would be to what I can do, I'm like, nah, it's definitely ain't the space for me. Because my dad, I have a gift of gab, and I'm great at connecting with people. So my dad when I was a kid, he used to always say, "Oh, you're such a politician. You're such a politician." So I thought, hey, I'd want to be a politician. But once you see like behind the curtain, you're like, no, I don't want to deal with this.
It's a terribly dirty game. It's very corrupt, and it brings out some of the worst elements of humanity. And
Yeah,
I can definitely see why you wouldn't want to be a part of it. A friend of mine, Adam Kokesh, I'm not sure if you're familiar. You are, because you were on a show. Yeah. He was running for president with the Libertarian Party, and the idea was to dissolve the federal government in the presidency and get everything back down to state and local levels. So
yeah,
pretty radical. But the reason I was showing your Twitter account was, for one, so that we could talk a little bit about the different applications, startups that you've done. Mm-hmm. And then also just kind of show a little bit here, obviously your success, over 133,000 followers. I mean, you're obviously doing well in a marketing element on Twitter and just marketing in general. So, I mean, that was another reason why I wanted to have you on. I mean, you're definitely a smart guy, and I feel like you can add value to the people that watch my channel, that are especially people that might be unfamiliar with you. Mm-hmm. But then people who are familiar with you, it's just a conversation between the two of us. I figure it would just be a fairly interesting conversation. And then, like I was telling you too, I think this could set up for the potential idea of having doing some more content, because I wanted to introduce you more. And I definitely would like to do something fairly soon, if possible, like where we could talk about current events and some of the things that are happening, and get a little bit more of your perspective on things like that. But
yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about, I won't necessarily go to each page, but
right.
You kind of summarize what the 3 different startups that you have are here on your Twitter account. You want to kind of talk a little bit more about them in detail?
Yeah, I think the funniest story is probably Coinbit's app. When I was in CPG, I was in consumer packaged goods, right? And when I was in consumer packaged goods, I realized that it's a very slow business. When you want to make changes, you have to go to design, and from design, you got to send it to the printer, and then the printer has to print it. Then he has to package it. Then he has to send it to you. Then you got to approve it. Then you got to do the whole thing over again if there's changes and corrections, right? So it was just a really long cycle to improve the product. And then the App Store started really growing. So I was talking to investors and co-founders and so forth after the 50 Cent project and after the Carmelo Anthony Coconut Water project that I launched with Dwayne Reed. And I wanted to be in digital. I was asking people, I'm like, yo, why don't we do an app? Let's do an app. And people were like, they just didn't get it, right? So I was like, screw it. I'm going to go find people that want to do apps, and I'm going to just dive in head first. So I dove in head first, and I applied for this job at a place called Inbox. Inbox is a text messaging app, kind of like WhatsApp, but with mad more features.
Okay.
Really, really cool app. And I applied for this job. They called me up for the interview. I show up. I passed the first interview. Then the second interview was with the tech guy. And he was asking me all these questions. And I'm just like, I was lost, right? I was completely lost. So obviously I didn't get the interview. Didn't get the job. So I go home and I write down all the things I didn't understand. And I started studying. So I spent like a whole year in like YouTube University and Google University, just, getting Google Analytics certified, Google Tag Manager certified, learning Google Search Console, learning SEO, learning ASO, App Store optimization, and just having to relearn a new science, which is digital marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I bought courses. I downloaded all the free ebooks just to because there's a lot of acronyms in marketing. There's a million acronyms. It's so hard to keep up, right? So then learning like click-through rates and conversion rates and all this other stuff. And then learning the Facebook ads platform, right? So I was running ads for people, one company we do like 25K a day, another company we do 2,500 a day. And some companies you start off with $10 a day, right?
Right.
So, I got a crash course in digital marketing. I remember I was working for one app company and this girl was working under me. And I said, so what did you graduate from school from? She's like, marketing. She just graduated college, and everything I was telling her was like literally foreign to her. And that's why I asked her, like, what'd you go to school for? She said, marketing. I'm like, you never heard none of this stuff? Like,
They
no.
don't teach you anything about marketing in school when you go to school for marketing. Just like when you go to school for business administration, you learn very little about business administration. It's actually quite insane, but people still continue to go to school for these things.
Yeah. So fast forward, I'm on LinkedIn and I see this Bitcoin company. So I hit them up, and it's the same guy at Inbox, the same CEO at Inbox. So I link with him, and we talk and we talk and we talk, and then I become co-founder because I know what I'm talking about now, right? And I've shown proved. I've already released my Dominate Twitter book, which shows, I'm an authority in this space. And at this point, I understood crypto. I understood the crypto space. I understood the crypto mind and the demographics. I understood investing. So I was just a great fit for fintech. And that's my buddy Maher. Maher and Yusuf started that company. And that's just been a great experience ever since.
It basically is like a change roundup feature that lets you accumulate Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It would round up your purchases to the nearest dollar, and then that change would be taken and put in Bitcoin.
It's automatic investing.
I love it.
You pop your credit
like the
card
Acorns
in there.
thing.
Yeah, it's like an Acorns model. You pop your credit card in there to take the change and round up, but it's automatic Bitcoin investing. Who was I speaking to? I spoke to Eric Schneider. Eric Schneider is a nuclear physicist, a nuclear engineer. I'm sorry, and he's been rounding up with us for I want to say over a year now. He said he just passed the 1 Bitcoin mark.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so he's got a whole Bitcoin on our platform. It's just a really great tool to just kind of invest in Bitcoin.
How long was he using your platform that he was able to accumulate a whole Bitcoin?
Probably over a year.
That is insane. So
the thing is, he understands investing, right? So when we had the Bitcoin crash earlier this year from COVID, right? I think the price hit below 4,000.
Below 4,000. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you were smart, you bought then, right? Like I bought a chunk. He bought a chunk. He said he just kept hitting the button every day because you can do one-offs for only $1.
Okay.
So he was doing one-off purchases at the max. So he just kept buying. And then once it shot back up to, the 9K it is today, close to 10K it is today, you make a nice chunk of change, right? You
Yeah, no,
basically double up.
it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I've got this. A lot of people say, especially in the investing world, not to put all your eggs in one basket, but I'm kind of doing what the guy in the movie Big Short did. I can't remember his name offhand. Where I'm betting against the system, I'm betting against the dollar, and so the majority of my preservation of money would be in cryptocurrency and silver, mainly with some gold.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
I haven't had a chance to accumulate enough revenue or income to be able to like purchase real estate or anything like that right now. But I've been doing the best that I can with what I'm working with. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, that's the Coinbits app project. And I think the moral of the story is, you can go from not being wanted to co-founder, right? If you just, instead of saying, oh, I didn't get the job because I'm black, or something stupid like that. And just say, hey, like, what's wrong with me? What don't I understand? Where did I go wrong? And I sat down, I did the studies, I paid for the education, courses I bought. I did the YouTubes, I did the Googles, and I just had to educate myself. And a year later, I was marketable. I had marketable skills,
that's a great attitude though, man. And hopefully people find value in the things that you're trying to share with others, because I mean, obviously you've made some headway with what you're doing. So I mean, what you're talking about, you have at least some sort of like authoritative sense, like you mentioned earlier. So let's talk. I think Wazo, if I'm saying it right, Wazo
Yeah.
AI, it's a camera vision AI. What exactly is that?
Yeah, anything that a camera can see, we can um, analyze, right? So uh, obviously facial recognition, um, fall detection, weapon detection, and we're even developing clothing detection right now, and some other things I can't talk about, but telemetry. And then we have a project, we're in a grocery store, so COVID hit, and people have occupancy limits. So instead of having somebody stand at the door with like this clicker trying to keep count, which can be flawed, we set up a people counting system. So when somebody enters the store and exits, it keeps a count of how many people are inside the building, so that you don't breach the limits and get a fine from the town or whatever. So there's a lot of different uses. We have a great dev team, about, I want to say, 6 people on our dev team. So sky's the limit, it's
That sounds
AI.
really cool. So, I mean, the way you're explaining it, the way I'm kind of understanding it, if I was to take something like this and like, I don't know what a particular type of tree or flower is, I can use the camera and it would be able to tell me what kind of
Yeah.
flower it is or what kind of tree it is, or
Yeah.
even a bird.
Yeah.
There's
If
been
we
so many
had,
times I've been very curious, like what exactly is this? I know it's a tree, or I know it's a
mhm.
plant, but what is this plant?
Yeah, you have to train the AI using data sets. So if we had a data sets of every single flower in the world, when a camera saw it, it would be able to identify, or animals or whatever. So our AI can recognize several different types of animals: bear, dog, deer,
So
uh,
it's still learning as it's
cat.
going.
Well, ours knows these 4 animals already. Um, and then there's possibilities of using this for farming, right? So cow has breached the perimeter, right? Send a drone to
That
bring
is
it back,
wild.
right? Like, so we could program it to send a drone out, and the drone will bark like a dog, and then the cow will come back, or sheep,
That is
right?
crazy, man.
So there's a lot of different applications, which it sounds like fun, but it's actually not a lot of fun, because the key to marketing is being able to just say, hey, this is what we do. But when you can do anything, it's like, well, where do we start? Right? Like, do we go after farming? So like, we're in the security space. So if there's a breach in your property, uh, it can alert the police, EMS. If grandma falls, we can alert the authorities and say, hey, grandma just fell in the living room and she's been on the ground for, such and such seconds. It'll take screenshots, send it to your cell phone. It can also not alert third authorities. It can just alert you. You can have it set up however you want. Then there's the opportunity for like shoplifters. So you might have a habitual shoplifter. Well, if you have photographs of him, we can put that in the AI, and it'll alert you when that person comes back in the store. Obviously, you can't get a huge data set from it, but there's also the ability to do gait recognition. So, and then there's ways to use this just period for a shoplifter. Like this person has picked up an item, didn't put it back, and they've left your store, right? And gathering that information, recognizing that when they come back in, but like I said, I can talk about this all day, but
No,
sky's the limit.
it's definitely fascinating, man. And I'm going to pay attention because like this has definitely caught my attention. So the last one was, how did you pronounce it?
That's Jiffitize.
Jiffitize. Okay.
Yeah. And that's just a very simple tool to download GIFs and videos from Twitter to the iPhone, because currently you can't do it on the iPhone. It just doesn't have the capabilities natively. So our app allows you to do that. And like we, at one point, Twitter made a change, and our feature was moved into a new location. A lot of people couldn't find it, and we couldn't find it for a little while. But a well-known right-wing influencer hit me up and was like, dude, I need you to get this back online. My engagement's way down, right? But it's something that it can be used by influencers. And a lot of influencers use our app. And also, just to have more engaging communications in your text messages. You see a GIF you like, you can save it straight from Twitter to your phone. You know how the meme game is.
Yeah.
Right. So, so it's just a really useful tool.
Well, that's 3 really cool ideas, man. And obviously, if people want to check out your Twitter account, they have it. There's links to all 3 of those. So I definitely encourage people to check those out, especially the CoinsBit app where you can do the roundup feature. I really like that. Any way that people can accumulate cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, without actually having to put their own money into it, I think is a great thing. I mean, that is kind of technically putting your own money into it, but
not a chunk of change.
Right. It's just doing it in such a minimal way that people really don't notice it. So I think that's an awesome thing. Well, man, I've honestly really appreciate the conversation and your time. Before we wrap up everything, was there anything I didn't mention or anything you wanted to talk about or any final thoughts?
No, we got everything covered, man. If anybody wants to connect with me and needs help building their business, I have a Saturday class I call the Mogul Summit. And it's basically a Zoom class, and got about 20 guys and gals in there. And it's rapid fire. They shoot questions at me, and I just walk you through your business and do business development. And it's an interesting thing because I learn a lot. They learn a lot, but I also learned that not to give people too much information up front. So now it's like, hey, here's your executables for this week, right? Mm-hmm. And then next week, I'll show you the next step after that. And then the next week, the next step after that. So, I have a lot of people that connect with me that want my help building their businesses, and I just don't have the time to do it. So I carved out that 2-hour block on Saturday from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Every Saturday we meet without fail. It's July 4th weekend. I'll still be in class this weekend. And so, yes, that's what I do.
That's Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yeah. Okay. And I help people build their business from the ground up. From Dominate Twitter, I got a guy named Coach Joe Hart. He, it's one of those things where the student exceeds the master. He has probably like a quarter of my following, but in his first, I want to say 16 months, he did 100K. And then in the last month and a half, he did another 100K. So he could potentially, make $500,000 this year, depending on, what's the ceiling on his business. So yeah, my methods work if you got the right product and service, and I help people try and figure out, if they have the right service and product or how to find that. So yeah, that's it.
That's awesome, man. If you could just hold on one sec, I'm going to go ahead and do the little wrap up here. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have links down below for everything we talked about in today's show. This just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my content. I do encourage you to explore my channel. If you like what I'm doing, you can support me by subscribing, always smashing that like button, commenting, and sharing. Check out my Patreon channel where you can support me directly, and I post up exclusive content. And you can also follow me on LBRY, where I post up extra videos. And as always, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change.